Before we start, I would just like to, I have an announcement. But first, I want to start off this announcement with a question.
Well, that's not an announcement.
No. How many times do you reckon you have corrected me on mispronouncing a word or using something in the wrong context?
Thousands.
Thousands?
Thousands of times. On this podcast, I've done it probably hundreds.
Yeah. So I
have decided to learn English.
No, I'm correcting you.
On what?
On a word. The episode that went up, that's going up this week, or it's been already up once this one comes out, we were talking about whiskey and I said, I'm not as attuned as you. And you went, attuned? That's not even a word. Attuned. Definition of the English dictionary says to make receptive or aware. Attuned. Attuned is a word.
Yeah, but you used it in the wrong context.
No, I didn't.
To make receptive or aware.
Ready? Here. I even recorded it. You ready for this?
Yeah,
you
I'm ready.
Ready to be wrong?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm not as attuned as you.
Attuned. In tune.
In tune?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I
right.
think attuned
Can
is a
you
word.
be attuned to something?
I don't think so. That would not make sense. But anyway.
It doesn't make.
Anyway.
I'm still right. You used the wrong word.
No, you said
Read back.
you said
Oh, you fucking.
attuned isn't even a word.
Okay, I got that wrong, but I didn't get wrong the context you were using it in. I'm not as attuned as you. Read the definition of attuned. It's not attuned. You were saying I'm not as aware or I don't have the knowledge you do, right?
Yeah.
Read the definition of attuned.
To make attuned with an A.
Yeah, I know.
Which is the word I said.
Yeah.
You said
to make receptive.
Or aware. So, and then it gives examples. Accustomed or acclimatized, students are not attuned to making decisions. A society more attuned to consumerism than da-da-da-da. Attuned. I think it was correct. It was not, as if you would say, oh, I'm not as in tune with.
That's the right word. That's the right way to say it. I'm not as in tune with.
I beg to differ. I think I'm right.
What's the definition of in tune? Fuck, we're going to do a 20-minute podcast on the word attune.
Yeah, because you make me out
Look
like I'm a fucking idiot every time
I still think I'm right. In tune. The Oxford Dictionary definition of in tune is, and it'll be correct, aware, knowledgeable.
No, it just talks about musical instruments.
Okay, tuned in. I'm not as tuned in then. Whatever, I still think it's the wrong word because I don't understand what it means. A receptive of.
It says, okay, here you go, in tune. Oxford Dictionary says with correct pitch or in tonation.
Well, that's a musical definition.
Properly adjusted is the other one.
Okay, well, it seems like we could.
Attune is aware.
Okay.
So
congratulations on one of the 9,000 attempts.
Yes.
At the English language. Well done.
That never happens to me. And I was reading back the podcast, I was listening back to the editing it.
You were reading it back.
I was not reading it back. I was listening to it because I was loading it this week. And I was like, I'm like, he called me out again. I'm like, I think I'm right. Turns out I was.
Sooner or later, it's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen. That was my one shining moment.
I can't wait till your next bad one.
How long have we known each other? 14 years.
And
I got one.
And it's still arguable.
No.
Okay. It's not arguable.
In tune is musical. Attune is aware.
Okay, fair enough.
Yay!
You're not as aware. All right, what are we going to talk? Oh, we should.
I'm a bit more in tune with the English language now.
We should do the intro.
Well,
where are they going to play the music?
Well, Porno just cuts and edits wherever he likes to cut and edit. So
Yeah. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm scratching my fucking eyeball. It's been a long day.
So let's talk about an interesting topic.
Attuned. Oh fuck! Speaking of tuning, yeah. Anyway, I gotta pay that fucking machine. Anyway, go on.
So Japan and Northern Hemisphere season is upon us and is looking pretty good.
It's snowing everywhere.
Yeah.
Even Canada's got a ton of snow.
Yeah.
Everywhere north of the equator is getting snow.
Yeah.
Literally.
Like Whistler looks like they had epic days already, and it's
Whistler looks like it was better than the whole season last year. Yeah, Austria's had a ton of snow. France, everywhere's getting snow.
Yeah.
Japan's talking about opening 1st of December everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
They've
For
had
all
heaps of snow.
There's so many people traveling end of December that have normally been like, oh, it's,
Sketchy.
touch and go sort of thing. But
looks good.
yeah.
La Nina, El Nino flipped, so
And there was another
it's
thing
supposed to be good.
I read that also is playing a part in it that I can't
we're
remember.
cooking the planet, so it's fucking the weather patterns up.
No. Well, this is the thing is I was reading a document on the weather today for Japan, and they said that it's going to be above average, like a 40 to 60% above average snowfall for Japan, but it's still going to have those sunny days and still have those inconsistencies because of global warming and weather change and patterns and everything like that. But it's going to be way more consistent with heavier days as well. So you still might get a sunny day in there.
I'm sure you're going to get.
It's not going to be
Inconsistent.
puking snow every single day, but they're saying 40% to 60% for Japan.
Above average.
Above average, which average is like what, 19?
No, it depends where you are.
Between
12 and 18 metres, depending on where you are.
Yeah. Okay.
But 40% or 50% above that is 20 to 27 metres, some insane amount of snow. So, yeah, you're kind of drowning in it at that point.
Yeah.
So if you haven't bought a ticket to Japan, you probably should.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to Japan, Canada looks good, US looks good, Europe looks good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's on. You'd be stupid not to go this year. All those people who went and rushed over after the pandemic release went too early. This is the year by the looks of it.
It's looking good.
Yeah. Everyone who went to Hokkaido in 2023 and got rain, or 2022 and got rain. I think we went in 2022. So yeah, you're allowed to go in 2022.
That was the first year open.
I think it's going to be a more normal season this year. Probably get far colder weather and far more snow. So go.
And on that topic, something has come up because we've obviously been on the shop floor talking to customers. And one of the topics that's come up a lot is volume shifted boards.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something else.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. God knows some of the dumb topics that come up.
Oh.
I reckon I spend 50% of my time in the shop talking about bloody step-ons these days.
Yeah, you asked me about that last week, and I had no energy to talk about that or Trump.
Nor do I. Let's not talk about either of them.
No.
Volume shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
let's deep dive it a little bit.
Yeah. What do you want to deep dive?
Well, when did it start?
I mean, it's hard to know what board was the first, but
well,
like
what were
Orca
one
as well?
of the few leading it, or
Orca,
the first?
the Orca.
Orca?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know other brands. I don't look at what Burton's doing. I couldn't care less, and I don't look at what certain brands are doing. So I couldn't.
In this context, we're just talking about brands that we stock and have depth of knowledge in. There would be other brands, but we can't be across everything.
The Orca's probably
what was
if you go back, right, the Salomon Derby,
Mm-hmm.
that was years and years ago. So There's been a lot of stuff going on with volume shifting for a long time, but I think the Orca's the one that kind of got it right in the sense that it had a lot of tech. So it had, this is the age-old argument, it has magnet traction, it has a wonky base, for lack of a better description. It's got rocker in the middle. It, as a volume shifted board, makes a lot of sense because of that rocker in the middle. It holds on. It's a really good board for Japan. If you just want to take one board to Japan, it's up there. I mean, in the Salomon range, there's now the Dance Hall.
Yeah.
It's very similar. The Gremlin in the GNU range.
What was the
first?
first?
Warpig was probably one of the early volume shifted boards.
Yeah, that would be too. What was the first year of the Orca?
Just for everyone, so that in case you haven't watched some of the other podcasts, volume shifting means the board gets shorter and wider.
Yeah.
Essentially. So a taller, heavier person can ride a shorter board. What was the what?
What was the first year of the Orca?
I couldn't tell you. It's been at least 10.
Yeah,
I can't remember when it first came out.
So in terms of, I'm just going to ask you questions just so that we can like deep dive this topic. In terms of volume shifting, it's just the waist width of the board.
Not just the waist width, the whole board essentially.
Nose and tail.
Yeah, it gets wider. Like the board's wider the whole way down, and the waist width tends to go that. The biggest problem with volume shifting up until recently is that if you've got a smaller foot, you end up on such a short board because you have trouble making the super wide boards work properly. So for me, or like Marcus, who we had on a few weeks ago, Stocker, with smaller feet, like when I say smaller feet, I wear a 9.5 US boot. I think he's a 7. Like he's crazy. He's got a crazy small foot. But for me, a 9.5 US foot just works for me on the 153 LibTech Orca.
Mm-hmm.
But I could easily go down to a 150. Like the Karua Dart that we took last year, they're kind of volume shifted. They're more fish, so they're not quite. But that thing in the 5.6 was really wide for my foot. Worked pretty well.
Yeah.
But
weird question. At what point would you classify volume shifted? Because obviously there are wide boards, but they don't get shorter.
It's the tail and nose that changes too. Excuse me. Had a long day. It's the tail and nose that changes.
So what's
too.
the difference between volume shifted and a wide board?
A wide board's just a normal board with a bit of extra waist width. So the nose doesn't necessarily get wider and the tail doesn't necessarily get wider. It's just a normal board with an extra 5 mil of waist
and the
width.
length doesn't change either.
No, and the side cut really doesn't change either. So everything looks relatively normal on a wide board.
Although, even if you are getting a normal board with a wide waist width, if you've got a bigger foot, it can hold more weight.
Absolutely.
Because
not weight necessarily, just foot length. Some of the wide boards don't necessarily have higher weight ratings. They just handle bigger feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've got a size 12 foot, you've got to ride a wide board. There's no normal width board that will work for a size 12 foot. That's what I think the Ride Warpig, the reason it became so popular was because guys with big feet finally had a board where they'd get no toe drag.
Yeah, okay.
So they were basically able to feel what it was like to turn properly for the first time, I guess. I ride a Warpig and I think they're just so sluggish from edge to edge. And we've had Chris Chunk from Bentley, who do ride in Australia, say on the podcast, and he said, we'll just ride a smaller one. Well, it's all well and good, but you're talking about a 140 something by the time the waist width is right for my foot. And then the board, that's not going to float me. It's not. If you're in deep snow, that's just not going to work. It'll carve, all right? It'll work in Australia on hard pack or whatever. But if I'm going overseas, I can't ride a 1.4 something unless it's a proper fish with no tail at all. Then I can maybe get down to the 1.4 somethings, high 140s. But it'd have to be an absolute fish. And I wouldn't ride that anyway because it'd just feel I think it'd be a bit shit on hardpack. And this is the stupidity of people and the way they think about buying boards sometimes is your board needs to be somewhat versatile. I get having a powder board, but you still got to get to the powder.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting off a lift, you're going to ride on some hardpack to get to the deep stuff. Or if you're hiking, and you're going just to ride deep stuff, at some point it's going to level out and be packed in and flat.
Like, do you remember that customer that came in with that board that didn't have rails?
Oh, it happens all
Yeah.
They're proper surfboards.
And I was like, what are you doing? How are you? He's like, it's
just,
pure powder. And I'm like, how are you?
How?
Are you getting dropped out of a helicopter?
Those boards are basically meant for that. They're like Japan.
But he wasn't. He was going to resorts. And I'm like,
he said that he didn't work very well on the fucking track. I mean, imagine riding a board with no edges on hardpack. You're just hanging on for dear life. You'd be struggling the whole time. I don't get it, but look, for me, volume shifting, I love volume shifted boards, but I still think if you've got the money, get 2 boards. Don't buy a 1 board quiver. Buy a daily driver, which could be an Orca for argument's sake, but I would go with something with a narrower waist as my daily that's slightly longer, that still works in snow up to, say, your knees. And then I have a powder board. Like, ideally, travel with 2 boards. Like, especially if you're traveling, take your regular board and then take a powder board. Take a fish, something with no tail.
So if you are the customer that's kind of like Japan / all mountain, and we're not talking about park guys now, because it's really hard to get a board that does all 3.
No such thing.
Because like I've said, you could, but do you really want to take a $1,200 board and throw it against metal?
The argument is that the Orca was designed for that. Again, Marcus was talking about that. He's like, Travis Rice designed that board to ride backwards. It's got the Orca flute as the nose and tail. It's rideable backwards. It actually goes okay backwards. I mean, I don't ride switch much. I mean, even if I do, it's more of I use it like reverse in my car. Yeah. Get it back out of the driveway and then turn around.
But for the general public that are like all mountain and then traveling to Northern Hemisphere or Japan or somewhere like that, it would be a daily driver, so an Orca or like
just a normal board, whatever you ride here.
Yeah, like an Assassin, an all mountain. That's something that would
sell so many different boards that would
be able to handle a little bit of snow as well.
A bit more twinny, directional twin. The joyride boards are good. The ride boards, like the normal ride boards, not the War Pig. There's so many boards we sell that work really well as a daily driver. Just not you still just, there's times when you're overseas, you're going to get hardpack days. You just want a normal-ish board. But take a powder board. Yeah. Like, if you're going to go for more than 2 weeks, you're going to get some snow. So take a powder board, because it's a game changer on those powder days. How it feels. It feels.
I have photos of my first trip with you when I was on a twin board, no powder board. It was my only board, twin board. When I rode here in Australia every day, I took that to Japan because I'd never ridden Japan, never been there before. So I was like, you know what? I'll be fine because I'm just going to be struggling anyway. Yeah. Got to work out how to ride powder. Yeah. And it was challenging. It was really challenging and had heaps of fun. But at the same time, I was like, I was struggling.
Because you're sitting on your back foot so heavily that the board's nose won't sit up. Whereas a powder board, for everyone who's not owned one, pulls you up, levels you out, makes you feel like you're riding normal snow. So you feel more in your natural snowboard position, for lack of a better description. You're still sitting on your back foot, obviously, but nowhere near as much. You got no drag. You're not dragging anything behind you.
The thing is, you're not having to pull your front foot up and counteract that by pushing your back foot down. So you're just going, okay, cool. Yep, I'm leaning. All I'm doing is shifting my weight to my back. I'm not physically trying to pull the board up with this leg and push down with that leg whilst shifting weight.
So if you look at a powder board from the side, and I think I've done a few board reviews that you can look at on this YouTube channel, which you should have already liked and subscribed. But if you look at them from the side, right to your front foot is rocker to the nose. From the front foot to the nose is all rocker. A normal board, it's far more forward. So you're camber goes further forward past your feet, where the powder board, the rocker goes all the way to your foot, and that's what's pulling you up. It's what's floating you up. And then you've got a little bit of camber between your feet to your back foot, and then your tail generally isn't there. Like you've just got this little tiny, like 20 centimeter piece behind your foot, and it's cut out. So like come and look at the Wally, the Salomon Wally. That's the best value for money powder board you can get, for sure. Can't wait to ride it. I'm excited to ride it. I want probably a 5.3, and then I'll take a Tarka as well. That would be my ultimate choice of boards. I haven't necessarily arranged that.
Yeah, see what happens.
If I can, I'd take those 2 Salomon boards this year. Because I've done, like the last few years, to be fair, I've ridden Karua, Jones. What else have I taken? I've taken heaps of boards.
Yeah.
The Lib, the Orca's been on my last 3 trips. And I'm okay with not taking it this time if I can take some different stuff. I haven't taken a Salomon for a few years, and I think their boards look amazing at the moment. I'm actually excited to ride them.
Yeah.
Can't wait. And I know they're good. I've ridden a Tarka before, so.
Yeah. Like even in the second half of my trip when Neil and my little brother come over, I'm making them take 2 boards, and they've never been to Japan before, and I think Neil's still learning, and he's never ridden powder before, and my little brother's never ridden powder before either. So I'm like, bring your normal everyday board, and we'll get powder boards for you guys as well, because
they start over otherwise.
Otherwise you're just putting yourself backwards, and it's so much harder and more work. So I'm like, you know what? Let's make this enjoyable and easy and get the most out of it.
The first powder day too is the day you learn to snowboard. Like you can be a pretty good rider, but until you've ridden powder, it doesn't seem to all click in your head, like what's actually going on. But that first, I remember it clearly. I reckon I rode for a few weeks my first season in New Zealand, not like my first actual stint of snowboarding, where I was doing more than a few days at a time, was really early on for me. And the first couple of weeks it didn't snow. There was hard pack. They were making snow. It was shit snowmaking back then too. It wasn't good. It was fucking ice. But they basically, the day, I remember the first day it snowed, and I remember driving up to the mountain. It was snowing a lot, and I was like, I wonder if I'll be able to deal with this. And within 2 turns, I understood snowboarding. I went from not having a real understanding of what the edges are doing or what the body motions and just how it all worked. The mechanics didn't make sense to me yet. And then within a couple of turns in that powder, I'm like, oh, right. Okay, that's what my front foot's meant to do.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden there's no consequence to a mistake.
Yeah, and also it's like the difference between, like, for instance, riding slush in Australia, it's wet and heavy and burns your legs out, and you make one wrong turn, you catch an edge sort of thing. Whereas when you're riding powder and you're floating and you're going fast, you don't feel like you're...
No risk. It doesn't feel like there's any risk, even though there is.
Yeah.
You find that out
fairly
quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different thing. You'll learn how to ride a snowboard properly once you've had a few powder days. And if you're on the right board, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Mind you, like, I did my whole first season in Canada on a traditional camber board. Didn't even have a thing of rocker in it. I fell in love with it, like riding trees and everything. Yeah. But I worked my ass off to ride.
We all learned how to ride on camber.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no fucking rocker. None of the things I just talked about were even available back then.
The people coming into snowboarding now don't have to deal with that.
No, don't have to battle it. So don't battle. Don't go through what we went through. That's crazy. You should probably go through learning how to use your fucking bindings, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
I still think that all this cheating to get your binding situation quicker is stupid, but just use real bindings. Big bit of information, use real bindings.
Yeah, because like once you do start to learn to ride powder and through the trees and you get speed, it's your steering wheel at the end of the day. It's your front foot.
Yeah, it's your steering, it's your it's such a big factor. Like, I don't know. I'm a binding guy.
Yeah.
I think the tech in bindings, we spent, like as snowboarders and as an industry, I feel like we just spent the last 35 years getting them right. And now everyone being lazy, iPhone generation, instant gratification generation have decided, fuck all that technology and improvement. I want to get on my bindings in 3 seconds and be the first one back to the lift line. Like, and stark reality in Australia and the places where the step-ons and all these new step-in, step-through bindings are all the rage, you're literally fucking going from top of the lift to a lift line. You're not. You're probably getting an extra, half a run a day? There's no way you're getting anything significant out of being quicker.
I would prefer to have a better feeling carving or hitting something or riding in that 30-second run.
Yeah.
I would prefer to feel better on the snow and in the
difference
turns.
is so significant. And I'll argue till I'm blue in the face with anyone trying to say that these step-ons, step-throughs, step-ins, Flow, Nidecker, Burton, fucking whoever else is doing them now. Like there's so many different, that Clue thing's a piece of shit. But there's so many different bindings out there that are convenience bindings. They're not as good. They're just not. Simple as that. We're supposed to be seeing this new one next week that is supposed to be as good. Well, I'll be the judge of that. I'll let you know.
I was kind of hoping to have this episode rant-free.
I'm trying not to rant.
Let's get back to powder boards and volume shifted things.
I'm super passionate about bindings.
I know. That's why it works you up so much because you've been a binding guy
I get upset.
You've always been so in depth. Like you tweak your bindings to the point that no normal rider would tweak them.
That's what you're meant to do.
Well, that's what you used to.
No normal rider. That's bullshit. If you got Simon from Joyride on here, he will tell you that you're out of your mind if you're not turning your high backs or you're not. Like a lot of those guys from my generation, we played with our bindings because it made a difference. It still fucking does.
Yeah.
It's staggering what difference it makes when you're binding and your boot connection's really nice with your board. And anyway, the bindings.
But I think it's but it comes down to how much tech goes into a snowboard that the general public don't know about. Like even setting your bindings, setting your angles up on your board and the amount that 3 degrees makes.
Massive.
Huge. And people are like, what's 3 degrees going to do? Massive. It changes everything.
Yeah. If you really open your front foot up on these powder boards, change the game.
Yeah.
Game changer. It doesn't really, it's funny, your back foot's a bit different because personally I think your back foot just needs to be comfortable wherever that works for you.
And that comes down to angles of knees and ankles and everything. So
if you get 10 people to stand, just walk and stop, those feet will all be a little off.
Yeah, some people are duck feet, some people are pigeoned
people, and you can't expect them to just fucking duck foot out.
Yeah,
their knees are all fucked up. So not fucked up, different. But yeah, I mean, you've got to find your comfy back foot position, but your front foot, the more you open it up in deep snow, the better you'll go. The less you'll have to work. Because that front foot literally just becomes a steering wheel in deep powder. It's not doing anything else.
Yeah.
It's not, doesn't require pressure on it.
But I don't think I could be wrong, but because of this direction that snowboarding is going in where it's making it more convenient for everyone, people are less and less aware of how much you can actually change on your setup. I remember going through, I've done the whole canted footbeds and everything. I've tweaked my bindings as well, purely because I've worked with you and you've been like, hey, try this, do this.
The canted thing I did for a lot of bindings just have it built in and you don't even know you're buying it. But it makes some difference to your knees for sure.
Yeah.
Over a course of 6 or 7 hours, having that slight cant in definitely helps. So Yeah, I mean, the Rome bindings years ago used to fucking have 3 different cants in the box.
I had a set of them, and so I would change them between the 3 different things and worked out which one I liked. But even still, like when I first started snowboarding, I think I got set up at like 12 and 12 because that's what they do with a person who's learning. They go, there you go. And
12 and 12.
Or 15 and 15 or whatever
That's
it is.
so crazy. But yeah, anyway.
That was my brother. He's like, you're going to learn to ride switch. I'm like, okay.
Well, it's good if you want to ride backwards, sure. If you don't, that's dumb. I've set up, I reckon, 95% of the boards I've sold, which would be thousands, I've set up with my stance. I just set them up how I ride and go, this works for me. Should work for you. If you don't like it, change it.
I make an active effort every time I set up someone's board to be like, hey, come here. I'm going to show you how to set these bindings up.
Show you how to adjust them.
I'm going to show you the forward and back, the angles, straps, everything. And I'm going to talk to you about angles as well. So if you get served by me, I will teach you how to set up your board with your angles.
What do you think the odds of those people remembering any of it once they walk out the door? Leave it how you've
set
it.
I make it so dumbed down. Dumbed down. There's 3 things. And I go, first one, I've already done for you, so you don't need to worry about that. Second and third, it's this simple. Here's 2 things to remember.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I'd show people the heel toe thing's a massive factor. I look at getting your setup right's really important. It's the same as when we sell a skateboard.
But some people just think,
there's the wrong size truck.
I know, but there's heaps of people that are like, there's 4 holes and there's a plate with 4 holes. On you go. And it's not that simple.
Well, but if you're riding 7 days a year, it probably fucking is. They don't care. It's better than the rental setup they would have got.
You'll still get down the hill, but man, you're holding yourself back.
It's funny, I can't think of any way of sort of describing it. Like there's not some analogy where you just go, it's as if this happened. Like, it's like, for me, if you're going to spend the money, you may as well know how to use it. You don't buy a smart TV and then never use any of the features. You just don't. Well, I guess people probably fucking do. That's the thing, right?
How many features do you know how to do on your iPhone?
I don't have a choice with that fucking thing.
But there is so default. Many features and
my
text.
My kids think I'm retarded. They sit there going, retarded. Am I allowed to say that? Anyway, my kids think I'm retarded, not you. And they just look at me and go, why do you do that, Dad? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, it's how I've learned. And they're going, all you got to do is swipe or something and that feature will happen. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not how I learned. So it's hard. I find it harder to relearn.
Yeah. But I'm saying even I'm pretty tech savvy, but there is so many features in an iPhone that
we'll never know.
I only just discovered voice commands the other day.
Mate,
it's crazy.
What do you mean voice commands? Siri?
No, you can actually, you can set up voice commands where you can say, hey, take a photo, and it will click on the screen and take a photo for you.
Oh, that's weird.
So crazy. It's pretty cool.
I don't know anything about that shit.
But
How
anyway.
about coffin going to the Arias?
You're like.
So ADD. Anyway.
Yeah.
Coffin. They went to the Arias.
I know. Their outfits were amazing.
They looked like a bunch of lunatics.
Excellent.
That's pretty funny. Anyway, buy Australia stops. It's real good. They didn't win, by the way. But they should have. Bullshit. They were robbed. Let's start. # coffin were robbed. Coffin robbers. Anyway, what were you going to say?
I don't know now.
Boards?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, look, there's 1,000 good boards to buy. There's a couple of we've got a couple of arbor boards down there from last year. A couple of deep powder arbor boards that will sell for dirt cheap if someone wants to just get a powder board.
When would you not buy a volume shifted board?
I just said I'm not taking one. When you've got 2 boards, you don't need it. If you want one board that does it all, you're probably better and you're going to Northern Hemisphere, you're probably better off buying a volume shifted board. Doesn't have to be a War Pig, doesn't have to be the Orca, but a shorter, slightly shorter, fatter floating board is going to be your best option if you just want one board.
Because then you can still ride it in Australia and it's not going to be super
They're fun
long.
in the slush. The volume
Yeah.
shifted shit sits on top of the slush. They don't sink as much. But if you're a park guy, then that's a stupid decision unless you're buying a twin pig, or a few of the volume shifted boards now are meant for park, for big feet guys. But if you're a park guy, buy a twin. Buy one of them. You know, buy a huck knife or whatever. There's hundreds of boards out there that are regular twin tips that are amazing. Did you see the thing I put on my Instagram today?
No, what was it?
Oh, have a look. Half pipe trick. It'll fuck your brain up. It's the gnarliest shit I've seen in a half pipe. It was on a huck knife, so I was like, I just put it on my Instagram going, if you were wondering whether huck knives are a good board, like, it's insane. I don't want to talk about it because it's stupid to talk about stuff you can't see, but look at my Instagram.
I wonder if we can send it to Portnoy and he can edit the clip in. Here we go. Here it is.
Wasn't that great? I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. But how am I going to send the clip to Portnoy?
I'll check your Instagram and I'll get it.
Okay. I think it was a story. Anyway, you'll be
I'll
able
work
to
it
find
out.
I think about 3 different people posted it. Monster Energy, probably. Salmon. The rider. I don't even know who fucking it was. It just blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, they're getting good.
All right. I need to check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Skateboarding.
Alrighty.
What's going on with that?
Mhm.
Fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Get back to the skate park.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
Alrighty.
over it. Peace out. Go to Japan this year.
Yeah. If you
Come
don't,
and
you'll
see
regret
us.
it.
Buy a board. Buy a powder board. Do it. You won't regret that.
No, you won't.
Like, no one I know who's got a powder board has ever said to me, oh, shouldn't have bought that powder board. Doesn't happen. They're stoked. They love them. You never destroy them because they get ridden in deep days. They last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Buy one.
They make riding easier and you have more fun.
Yeah. And they look cool as shit.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Alrighty.
Have a good one.
Peace.
It's about